Welcome to the UMKC Gallery of Art. I'm Shaka Myrick, and I'm one of the co-curators along with Emma Thomas and Davin Watney for the Fall 2020 exhibition, Real Black, A Spectrum of the Black Present. We've chosen 11 Black Kansas City artists to highlight a spectrum of Black experiences, from protests, historic events, fashion, and Black intimacy. Let's have a look. Our first work is entitled Patriot by the late Evan Jackson. This portrait has a theme of a dream deferred, where Black individuals have worked hard for their country, but do not experience the same rights as other individuals. Next, we have Danielle Randle here to talk about her work. Danielle, what was it like shooting at the Plaza protests this summer?
All right, shooting the protests this summer was super intense. The first few days that I was down there, I witnessed several people being maced while chanting Black Lives Matter with their hands up. I myself was chased by police and tear gassed for doing absolutely nothing, and at that moment I realized that I need to be a part of the movement. I spent 60+ days protesting and hosting community events like community buyouts and community cleanups, and that's when I met a fellow artist here, Ari Bronner. Out of the pictures, you would think that my favorite one is the middle picture, We Ride, but it's actually the one of the police officer because there was so much going on behind the scenes. We were marching down Broadway and then we turned onto the highway, and that's when a minivan full of police officers hopped out and they were getting ready to tear gas us. They had their batons out, and I was signaling this officer right here, letting him know we were going to the right. And that's when I captured this picture, and his fellow officers were actually attacking some of the protesters. So that's why this picture looks as if I'm moving, but really I was running and trying to capture his photo while trying to get the other officers who were threatening one of our fellow protesters.
Here we have ceramic works by Jada Patterson called Consideration of the Black Body 1. She's using vessels as the ships that brought enslaved Africans to the Americas, but also these traditions are embedded into her work, as hair braiding was a passageway into her womanhood. Here we have another work by Jada Patterson entitled Same Lips. This mixed media project is made from wood, acrylic, black soap, shea butter, beeswax, plaster, and Kanakalan synthetic hair. Do you think these are all the same lips? All right, next we have Ari Bonner here to talk about her work. Ari, could you give us more insight on the concept of these specific pieces?
So the pieces that we curated for this show kind of I have a preference of like photographing people that I know in intimate moments, and because I'm queer and most of the people that I surround myself with are also within the queer community, I feel like these photos kind of like show like the intimacy in those moments, which a lot of people don't really think of, specifically brown queer people. Whenever they think of the LGBT community and when they think of Pride, they don't think of like brown representation, Black representation. So these are photos of me and my partner and moments that we share that other people don't often get to see. As Black queer women in my experience, I actually grew up in South Mississippi, and I was in complete denial when I was younger because gay representation to me was white men, white gay men. So I didn't realize, I didn't even know what the word queer meant other than weird until I moved to the Midwest and I met a whole bunch of other Black and brown queer people. So I feel like my work is important to me in particular because it creates the representation that I wanted to see. I wish I would have seen more of when I was younger. And I hope that it creates that same feeling for other queer people that are maybe struggling in the same way that I was, or maybe looking for that representation and looking to feel just seen.
Next, we have Catherine Looney here to talk about her work entitled Moonlight.
Well, the first time I saw this movie, I was moved immediately, basically what Moonlight is about is following a young boy named Sharon from an area right outside of Miami, Florida, through 3 critical stages in his life, one being childhood, then going to his teenager age, and to being a full-blown grown man. And what basically he's encountering along the way as far as figuring out what his identity will be. And in the very end of the movie, the last 10 seconds, they go through when he's young, when he's a teenager, when he's older, but at the very last 10 seconds, right before the credits, they shoot back to this picture and this image of this young boy slowly just zooming in on this young boy who's looking out on this ocean. It's just this vast, huge ocean. It almost seems like he's lost, but he takes this moment and he turns around to the audience and almost breaks that fourth wall and looks at you, and he's not so lost anymore. It's almost as if he knows exactly who he is. And that's one question that had been asked throughout the movie over and over, like, who are you, Sharon? Who is you, Sharon? Like, who do you think you are? But at the very end, even in his adolescence, he knew. So that is why I picked the piece. I do like that there was a space created for us to show up and show out. And that is something that I've been just hoping for a lot of my art career and hoping to see more of, and to just be in a space that was for us, by us, with us. It really stuck with me, and I really feel like from now on, and this is the start of my art career, but for this to be just the very beginning and seeing this space is gonna keep me going and keep me trying to push for this and trying to make sure other Black artists are represented, other queer artists are represented, other female artists are represented. And I would definitely say to the artists in the show, to artists in general, keep doing you and keep showing up. Just keep doing it.
Next, we have Frank Norfleet's portrait, Andrea. This oil on panel offers a classic portraiture style of someone who is like a mother to all of us. Frank Norfleet is using quiet tones, brilliant strokes, and amazing blending to bring to life a woman that we may all know. Now we're here with Cecil to tell us more about his work.
Yeah, my name is Cecil, and so these are mixed media paintings that I created. A lot of my work has to deal with issues of representation and around Black people, and specifically Black women. And so I like to make connections between things that people kind of see in pop culture and in pop art that you don't always associate with Black bodies. And so that's how I kind of approach these paintings. They are untitled. I think with these paintings, I'm just kind of wanting to stretch my muscles, almost more like a sketchbook of ideas and just skills that I kind of combined. And so I started off with spray paint, really street art inspired, and then I began to get into some more figurative work with my figures, using contemporary fashion, street art fashion, sometimes even high-end or high fashion brands like Gucci, just coming together to kind of show African American people, or specifically our women, in a more positive and a more diverse light, or more versatile light. And so a recurring theme in my work that you see lots of times is Gullah Geechee. You'll see, or forever, you'll see that in a lot of my paintings. The Gullah Geechee people were a group of African American people after the Civil War in I think around South Carolina and Georgia area. And after the Civil War, they were able to obtain a certain amount of land where they would maintain their identity through African, culture that they, retained even through slavery and everything. And so what was significant about it was in recent times, I believe in I want to say 2017 or even earlier than that, you would just see white investors go in and take their land from them just with any different types of tactics. It's something you should definitely research. I might not be able to get onto the history of it, but the reason why it's in my work is because it's to send that message to people to say, these are things that can happen to you in a system of racism that we're creating art, trying to, educate and inspire about. And so that's the thought process behind that. You'll see that a lot in my work. Oftentimes in my work, I'll even write messages in between the lines, so you really have to kind of get in and check it out. I think that art is a way for Black people to really kind of inspire and educate. And so I'll put in different quotes. I'll put in just different positive message. Stay out of our hair. Just different things that I feel like speak to the culture and speak to the people instead of the art world itself. And so that's pretty much the premise behind my work. I don't know, it's like tons of stuff I can get into with it, but.
Next, we have Makayla Booker here to talk about her series of photos.
Hello, these photos are called Black 365 Group Dynamics, and they are a part of a bigger series called Black 365. And the idea for this photo shoot came to me around this time last year, and I was thinking about the narrative of Black history and how for Black people, Black history is 365 days. We are born Black and we die Black. And I did this photo shoot in February, and I released the images at the end of February, and I wanted these photos to show the beauty and the power of Black people and how when we stand together, we are a force to be reckoned with. I believe these images represent the new Black family in the way that these are trying times for everyone, and we need to stand together. And not just your biological family can be your family, your friends can become your family, and we need each other now more than ever. I feel like being a Black student at any university is different depending on your major or what you do in your life and your path. But as a Black student in the art department, I was fortunate to take an African art history course, and it was eye-opening because I was never taught the stuff that I was taught in that class in high school. And I feel like institutions now more than ever need to bring Black art and Black art history into their courses. This show is a great opening to widening the audience and letting people know the beauty and the power of Black people. This is a step in the right direction.
William Toney is here to tell us about his installation.
This is my installation. I'm going to start with the photographs. They're titled Pants 1 through 3. And then the hats are titled Hats Covered in Tobacco, Hat Covered in Money, and Hat Covered in Tobacco and Money. So I kind of want to start with the photographs that I use as standalone images, but also as support to the sculptures, and in this form, their hats. So the pants I always thought of as a cultural artifact. I graduated from high school in 2007, so some of this has a personal mythology, because I've used pants that were designed by Black designers and often worn by Black men at that time. And since that style has become outmoded, I started to think of them as cultural artifacts. And I used to wear these clothes, but now I'm also using the sculpture in front of it. So the hats, I'll talk about the tobacco and also the money. I'm using objects that I've worn myself, but then covering them in tobacco and covering them in money. The tobacco especially, I thought, takes the form of covering it in history, because not only is it tobacco, it's also what's commonly referred to as blunt guts. And so it's the first time that you can smell the art, which I think is really cool. They smell like chocolate Dutches and grape swishers. So that has to do with my culture, but it's also the tie to how we got here in the first place. By that I mean Black Americans, and I'm using some of those some of the symbols and some of the materials of that industry to also highlight that part of history. So I chose money because I like the interplay between the capitalism but also Black consumerism. And then I'm also sort of indebted to some of the advertising that was geared towards Black communities throughout time. So I was looking at source material like Vibe magazine, Source magazine, and some of like this hip hop photography, and a lot of the ways in which we've come to terms with our place here is through the use of or the access to capital, access to money, and to almost kind of glorifying ourselves, but sort of making sure that our presentation is always paramount. One of the things that I was looking at when I was studying and making these pieces was the use of clothing historically in Black communities, such as the ideas of Sunday's best and always presenting yourself. And I was also looking at the denim in relation to some of its uses in civil rights movements, and how it spoke to the use of denim speaks to sharecroppers in the South, while people from the North are in suits and in their nicer clothing, and especially religious leaders and things like that. So I was kind of looking at the push and pull between material, between culture and context.
Here's another piece by Kat Looney called On Red. It offers a different perspective on Black fashion, from gold rings, watches, chains, even to the way he holds his phone. You can tell he's leaving somebody on red. The last two pieces in the gallery are by JT Daniels. CoverGirl and Arosa are mirrored against each other to represent a past, present, and future self. The final works in our show can be seen from outside of the gallery. This set of digital prints by Shafer are called March Together, and they really encompass the ideas of Black people coming together, standing together, and supporting each other in the community. Real Black, a spectrum of the Black present, is a culmination of all these ideas and what it is to be a Black person in America. I hope you've enjoyed the show.